All right, guys, welcome in here. It is Thursday, which, of course, means it's football day. That's right, college football, Week 12, getting ready to, well, it's already been under, thanks to the MAC. Week 12 in college football, Week 11 in the NFL. That is certainly kicking off tonight with the Steelers and the Browns. And speaking, of course, the Browns, Mr. Cleveland himself, Ralph Michaels, WagerTalker.com, joining us, a guy that will keep it real when it comes to Cleveland sports and certainly the Browns. He is much like being a Jet fan. We are just beaten down between the Jets and the Browns fans. We know exactly what pain is like, but we got monster games in college here tonight. Ralph, I'll ask you, the MAC's been playing all week. You do have an ACC game. You do have a MAC game. I don't know, is the MAC always this crazy where you get, like 4 points in the first half and then 400 points in the second half? Is it always this up and down with the MAC?
We've seen a couple crazy totals, right? If you had that total under again, the Western Michigan game, that's another bad beat for you. So, the MAC is just, you have weird situations, you have weird scheduling dynamics with these midweek games, you have people out of their routine. The funny thing is that come late November, there are actually some routines, and I like playing on those teams. If a team's played Tuesday or Wednesday for 3 straight weeks, you are now back in a 7-day routine where you're not playing with 4 days rest and then 7 days, 10 days rest, and then back and forth. So That is something I do look at getting on. So, the MAC has been a crazy, crazy league. I mean, 2 teams that were supposed to run away with it, Ohio and Toledo, are way down in the middle of the pack. Western Michigan, I have 3 or 4 CUSA teams better than the best MAC team. I have multiple Sunbelt teams better than the best MAC team. So the MAC clearly has fallen back to the worst conference in my mind in college football. But that doesn't mean we don't have competitive games. I have not had a great read on it. So there's some years where I might have 8 or 9 MAC plays in a season. I think I've had 1 this year. So it's just one of those things that if you're watching the game and it didn't go the way you thought, I just don't put action on those teams.
That's a great piece of advice right there. And speaking of Mac Brown back, North Carolina. I don't think anybody had North Carolina being as competitive or even winning 4 games so far this year. Kind of up and down. Pat Narduzzi, Pittsburgh. Same kind of situation. I think both of these teams represent the ACC very well, a conference that is middle of the road, most of these teams, and then there's Clemson. And, Clemson's probably their best competition is maybe playing themselves in a scrimmage because I'm not sure they're going to get it anywhere else. But they are at home, Pittsburgh, tonight, laying 4 against Mac Brown in North Carolina. What do you think of this game?
And I think they're number 2 in the country in sacks. So, you have a freshman quarterback in Sam Howell who's now going to get pressured. He was sacked 6 times against Wake Forest, 5 times against Virginia Tech. So we know that the O-line is apt to give up pressure. I look at North Carolina and, they may be 4-4, but they are as impressive to me as any team because you start off beating South Carolina and Miami. And then you go through a brutal stretch, losing to Wake Forest by 6. The App State game goes down to the wire. You lose by 3. Then you have the gumption to come back and take Clemson to the wire and lose by 1. So you think you're done, but you go to Georgia Tech and you beat them. What happens then? You lose to Virginia Tech by 2. Oh, my God, there's no way they can rebound. Well, they do. They beat Duke. Now they lose to Virginia. Can they rebound again? So the team, the effort's been there. That's the incredible thing about Mac Brown is he deserves. He pretty could be in the Coach of the Year, statements with what he's done. He's not going to get there with only 4 wins. I look at this and, Narduzzi, of course, a Michigan State guy. So a team that has no offense and a great defense. Pittsburgh people should be very accustomed to watching Michigan State. He's probably done Michigan State football better than D'Antonio has this year because he only has 3 losses. My power ratings say Pittsburgh, but, this is an offense that's only averaging 20 points per game at home, and I can't lay a number with them against the North Carolina team that continues to try. So although my power ratings say Pittsburgh, and that would have me leaning with them, no action for me with the effort the Tar Heels have put out.
All right, Ralph Michaels, wagertalk.com. Guys, if you have not gotten there, make sure that you get there. Plenty of information, of course, at wagertalk.com. All of Ralph's plays all week long, all weekend long, packages, all information you need to make it a profitable weekend here at wagertalk.com. And, Ralph, we talked about, of course, the Browns. And the Browns, here they go tonight, Thursday Night Football. You've got an AFC battle, right? A classic, something we have come accustomed to watching Pittsburgh and Big Ben over the years kind of dominate here. But no more Big Ben. This is a whole new Browns, a whole new Steelers. And much like we witnessed on Sunday where people are scratching their head going, how in the hell are the Bills the underdog here? Well, you're getting a lot of that here too, Ralph. How in the hell are the Steelers, who are coming off of 4 straight wins, why are they an underdog in this game, Ralph? Is it the same situation here? Are the books trying to tell us that the Browns aren't as dead as everyone else wants to make them out to seem?
I give up on the Browns. I've gone on numerous rants. I mean, if people watch Teddy and I on Sports Grid TV, they're going to know my feelings on this. And I'll mention it one more time because they're prime time tonight. You have a head coach that was an interim for 7 games. So what happens? You give him the head coaching job. He names himself OC. He has double duty. He's completely overmatched. One angle is first-year head coaches on a short week have only hit 34% against the spread. Now, Kingsbury did cover with Arizona earlier this year, so the last one was a win. But it's something a lot of people don't talk about. It's very difficult to get an NFL team ready in 7 days of prep. It's much more difficult to get an NFL team ready in 4 days of prep. And it's much, much more difficult if you're the OC and the head coach in that spot. So with that, I'm going to say I lean with Pittsburgh. But then you look at the Pittsburgh side, and yes, the defense has been revitalized with the trade from the Dolphins. And, you almost think of Ed Reed being in there with Minka being the guy. But, I go back and I look at Pittsburgh's success, and yes, they reeled off 4 straight wins, but this is only their 4th road game. Game 1 against New England, Big Ben there. Their 3rd game on the road against San Francisco, that was Mason Rudolph. Again, early in the season. What happened? He had 289 yards, 11 first downs. Then his 2nd road game against the Chargers, 256 yards. He has not moved the ball on the road, and he's going against a very good Cleveland defense. The Browns gave up a lot of yards to San Francisco and Seattle in the middle of the season, but every other opponent besides those 3 games stretch, Baltimore, San Fran, Seattle, they've held under 345 yards. I've gone back and forth on this. I am not going to have a play on this, Joe. But I do have one system that I'll throw out here, and people can take out of it what they want. And I looked at how teams do that were 4-4 and are off a win. We know if you're 4-4, you're halfway through the season, and now you're off a win, you're 5-4. You're probably thinking, hey, if I win this game, I'm 6-4, and I can make a run, and I can get into the playoffs. So in this instance, I think the record is important, and the players are very cognizant of what the record is. So if teams have 5 wins and 4 losses, a 5-4 record, and they're off a win, like Pittsburgh is, they're off a win against the Rams, and they're a dog, those teams have only gone 5-20 against the spread, like the Pittsburgh Steelers. That this week says to fade Pittsburgh and to fade Philadelphia, and 5-20 against the spread. And if you're an away dog, like Pittsburgh is, you've only gone 2-14 against the spread, 12%. So, you could take with it as you wish. But again, I think the schedules are important, and I look at what records are. And, even in college football, if you're 1 game under 500 and you got that game, I think there's more emphasis in there than a team that might be over 1 game over 500 and when they're in the locker room. So I am going to give very little advice on this game, and I'm going to say that, the under I like. And if you're going to get a division rival like this, and Pittsburgh's a dog, and you could tease it up to 8.5, and you could get under 47, that might be the way I go to suggest to people to have a fun bet on this game.
That's it. I mean, bottom line is players got to make plays. And do you trust Mason Rudolph, who hasn't hit the 200-yard mark in passing in 5 of his 7 starts? Or do you trust the guys, and I don't trust Baker Mayfield, but do you trust any of the weapons he has? Because ultimately somebody's going to have to make a play. Who's it going to be tonight? Line has been bet up to 3, interesting enough. So even though the public's all over Pittsburgh, somebody's betting on Cleveland because that number keeps inching towards 3 now. So interesting stuff there, Ralph. How bad is the wind in Cleveland? Because they're looking at double-digit wind tonight. They're saying 12, 13 mile an hour, some sustained winds there. With that stadium set up, Ralph, do you know how bad is the wind in that stadium?
It is bad because, as you know, it's right on the lake.
Right.
I mean, it is 200 yards from the lake, and it does swirl. So I'm going to say there's at least a missed field goal because of that wind. Perfect. Because it comes in and it swirls. And sometimes, it all depends on wind. There are some games where if you have a 15-mile-an-hour wind, you see teams that are going in one direction always move the ball, and teams struggle the other direction. Yep. And then when they switch, the other team gets the offense. In Cleveland, that's not the case because of the way it swirls. The stadium faces east and west, and the wind is usually coming out of the northwest, where we have the lake effect. So it's coming into the stadium and it's swirling, and it's not coming directly along where the field is on the east-west tangent. So swirling wind is bad for the offense for both teams the entire game.
Love that. All right, see, that's the kind of information you guys need. Total at 41.5 right now in that game tonight. All right, Ralph, college football. I love it. The rankings came out, right? The committee week 2 tells us that, all right, Georgia's in there, guys. We know the top 3. Georgia's in there, and then you got Alabama. So it's SEC, basically what we're looking at. But to me, I think, and we love chaos, chaos is all about Auburn and what Auburn does from here because of the fact that, listen, Auburn's got to play Georgia this week. They've already beaten Oregon, who's right there, too, in number 6. So they've got to play Alabama yet. Nothing here, to me, is going to be solidified. I think it starts with Oregon against Georgia. With Auburn against Georgia at home, coming off a bye. Bo Nix, Gus. What do you think of their chances to be able to pull off the upset and start the chaos here this weekend?
Well, let me just say there's no way in the world 3 SEC teams are getting in. So, yeah, they may have them up there now, but there's not a chance in the world that's going to happen. I think we'd have the other power conferences just say, screw it. Exactly. SEC, you just have the SEC championship and name that guy the national champ. We're going to have a second national championship on our side. So
true.
And again, even 2 is going to be a stretch to me because, the Pac-12's got left out. If Utah, Oregon run the table and they have a Pac-12 championship with 1 loss, right, even though someone's up there now, so much changes when a team wins a conference championship and makes that next step where Alabama will be sitting out or, Georgia's going to be playing LSU, so one of them are going to lose,
right,
in the championship game. So there's a lot of football to be played. With that said, in this game, this is another game. I did a video at this at Wager Talk yesterday, and I originally liked Auburn. I said, they're at home. They play much better at home. At home, they're 524 yards per game. On the road, they're 346 because you have a freshman quarterback, Bo Nix, who doesn't play as well. But then I look at the offense, and I just don't think Nix and Whitlow can keep up with Swift and Fromm, even though they've been very disappointing. You have to remember, though, the Kentucky game was a quagmire. Florida was a brutal rivalry. Missouri was another game in that situation where you're letting down off Florida. You're in a Florida-Auburn sandwich. Yes, Auburn is fresher. They're off a bye. But, again, against the 3 ranked teams Bo Nix has faced, he hasn't topped 180 yards in any of those games. Georgia's defense is solid. I lean Georgia, and again, I hate to be not giving strong opinions on these main games, but, I just don't have opinions on them. I play out the games, and they're going to be close to the vest. This is another one. I don't tease college football. You really shouldn't tease college football.
No.
The variance is so much more. But if you want a fun bet on this game, I have no problems. If you tease Auburn plus 8.5 and go under 47, you have an NFL total with 41. Mm-hmm. We know it's going to be a low-scoring game. We know these defenses are going to shut people down. So this is a rare instance where you almost have NFL-type offenses and NFL-type defenses, a total of 41 that I like the under on, and you're getting a home dog that you can tease up to over 8.5, a rare instance where if you want to have fun just watching the game and you want something on it, it wouldn't be the worst idea in my book to tease the Auburn Tigers and the under.
Love that. All right, Ralph Michaels, wagertalk.com. Guys, make sure you get there. All of Ralph's plays available to you, not to mention college hoops underway. And if you guys haven't done so, if you want to go ahead, tail Ralph at Cal Sports LV. Get to Wager Talk as well. Ralph and I have a great daily show, the Happy Hour Tip-Off Show, getting you guys caught up each and every day with what you need to know on college hoops. So make sure you're looking for that at Wager Talk. Just follow him on Twitter and YouTube there. And Ralph, there were two lines that came out this week in college football that just, what do you do in situations like this? Number one, you got Ohio State. Ohio State taking on a Rutgers team that they have shut out, I think, 2 out of the last 3 times that they have played him. But you look at the score. I mean, they got him as a 52.5-point favorite. The damn total's only 60. So they're basically telling you they expect maybe if Rutgers is lucky, they score what, a touchdown?
No, not even that.
Not even
because you subtract 52 out of 60. That's 8 points left, and you give 4 points to each. So they're expecting the score to be 56-4.
What I mean, obviously, this is another one of those things. If you want a fun bet, do you lay? And this way you can say, hey, I laid 50-some-odd points and won the game. I don't like. What is the thinking behind this?
Database goes back to 1980, Joe. And I think there have been 7 teams that have been 40-point road favorites.
Okay.
There have been twice where they were higher road favorites than this. The 1987 Oklahoma team laid 56 to Kansas and 56 to Kansas State. So, that
was Switzer and Bosworth and that whole crew. Yeah, so yes, yep.
I wouldn't bet against Ohio State here. I'll tell you what. The thing is this. Last week you are up 42-0 against Maryland.
Right.
Maryland much better than Rutgers. You take out your entire starting lineup. So what do you have in there? Well, you have a 4-star quarterback. You have a 5-star running back. I mean, when your backups are 5-star recruits and you have to let the kids play in the third quarter, you can't kneel. Right. You can't kneel the first play of the third quarter. You're taking the integrity out of the game. Yep. And last week it was 42-0. So what do? They outscored them 31-14 in the fourth quarter, second half.
Yep.
This system really doesn't apply because this is crazy, but away teams back-to-back wins of 28 points or more, like Ohio State, against an opponent that allows 35 or more, has gone 93-48, and the average line of those have been over 20 points. Again, so we're not to the 50 range, but we're talking about significant point spreads, and they're still covering 66%. But there was only one way I'd go. Ohio State's been a machine. We've seen that Ryan Day continues to let his kids play. He lets his backups throw the ball and play offense. And I like it even more, if you're watching the game and you're thinking about live betting it, and if Ohio State's defense doesn't give up a touchdown, then they try to go for the shutout. We saw that in the first half.
Yes.
The first half line of this game, the first half line is probably 35 out of 50. I played the first half last week against Maryland. I laid 30.5 against Maryland, and they won 42-0.
And you crushed it, yes.
Yeah, and, I might do that again this week because, first half points, Ohio State, in their last 5 games. They've allowed 5, 0, 10, 3, 0, and 0. That's 6 games, actually. So they have shut out 5 opponents in the first half. And that the defense isn't giving up any points in the first half.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. 31.5, Ralph. 31.5. The total is 35.5 in the first half of this Ohio State-Rutgers game. And you ain't even sweating laying that ticket, are you? You're not even sweating laying 31.5. Ugh.
I would rather lay the 31.5 than I would in Northwestern. So,
see how good. I'm so glad, Ralph, because please help us understand. And again, I'm sure Vegas has its reason, right? The books always have their reasons for doing things. But anybody that's followed Northwestern, guys, they average what, 13 points, something along those lines a game. They're laying 40 in this game, 40 damn points against UMass. Right? Like I don't even know what to do. Like, am I fading them? Do I go with them? What do you do in this situation?
Well, Joe, I put my power ratings up every Sunday at Wager Talk. They're free. Anyone can grab them. Go to the Ralph Michaels page. You could download my power ratings. Well, if you look at my power ratings this week, I had Ohio State 53. Okay. And I have Northwestern 38.
Wow.
Northwestern may be the 3rd lowest team in the Big Ten. I have them ahead of Maryland and ahead of Rutgers. Mm-hmm. But you have Massachusetts at a historic low. I have them at 31, which means if they played Ohio State on a neutral, I would have Ohio State a 74-point favorite.
Mm-hmm. 70, how much? 74?
74, yeah.
That's a good number. That's a round number.
Again, I'm going to go back, and this isn't the wherewithal of saying this is why you should take Rutgers and not back UMass. But when you're playing a team that is that bad, mm-hmm. I'm going to go back to a few weeks ago. Rutgers, the same Rutgers team we're talking about against Ohio State, was a 7-point home dog to Liberty.
Yes.
And what do? They put up 463 yards and 44 points. Yep. That's the same team that has scored 10, 7, 0, 7, 0, 0 their last 6 games against Power 5 teams. Right. So even though the offense looks horrible, when you're playing a team like UMass, all of a sudden your offense looks very good. I'm going to equate the same thing to Rutgers when they played Liberty. Yeah, they were coming off Maryland, Indiana, Minnesota, and Illinois, and they didn't look good. But when you're playing a Liberty team, you all of a sudden look a hell of a lot better than you might expect. I could not bet UMass. Does that mean I'm betting Northwestern? Hell no. But if I had to, if you said here's $5, you have to make a bet on this because I want to drink ticket from the sports, then yeah, I would take it Northwestern.
It's interesting too, Rob, because some of the books through Wednesday of this week, one bet on UMass in one book, none on either, and like nobody's betting. Even the public's like, I ain't going near that bet. Like I don't even want to go there. But if you do, it's probably worth backing Northwestern. And hey, maybe even in the first half type of situation, it's only 26 points.
You know what? On Sports Grid again, I'm going to mention our show with Teddy, which is on from noon to 1, which is on noon to 1 Pacific, 3 to 4 Eastern. On Mondays, we have Arthur DeCesar from The Link, and on Thursdays, we have someone from the Superbook in. Usually it's John Murray, who is awesome. And we go through who's getting the money, who's getting not. So I am going to ask him how many bets have been on Ohio State and how many bets have been on UMass. So tune into Sports Grid today, and we'll have the exact answer from one of the best sportsbook operators in Vegas, John Murray from the Superbook USA.
I like to call him the shits and giggles bets. Just for shits and giggles, Ralph, let's see how many people are actually laying their money on Northwestern or UMass. One game that is definitely going to get, and I don't know if you've had a chance to look at this or if you have a feeling, but when you have a team like Michigan State coming off of a devastating loss meltdown against Illinois at home in that last game. It's been a rough go of Michigan State. Now, how do you rebound at that and go to your arch nemesis there? Take on Michigan on the road, Ann Arbor. It feels, from the outside, Ralph, it feels like you can only bet Michigan in this game. But what does a team do like? I mean, the teams off of devastating meltdown losses, do you find or have you found that maybe there's some value still on them? Or do you think Michigan State at this point, it's past the point of any return?
Well, I guess the deciding factor is this. Mark D'Antonio got the show of support, so that means he's gone. So that means you got to fade him. If they're probably the most inexplainable team to me.
I agree.
Losing to Ohio State, Wisconsin, Penn State, and Arizona State. If you take them all in perspective, it's not bad, but just an offense only putting up 17 points in those 3 games. This is with a returning quarterback with Lewerke. I mean, and it's not like you didn't have talent. You returned 17 starters in the Big Ten. You returned this. You're the most or second most experienced team in the Big Ten, and to have such a fall off, this is a Michigan team that the light went on the second half against Penn State.
Right.
I raised their power rating 3 points just because of that second half rating. I played on them against Notre Dame. What did they do? They blew the doors off. I played on them against Maryland. The yards were not pretty, but the defense did their job, holding them to 7 points. Am I going to get to the window in this game? I don't think so, because it is a solid defense. You're going to have some wind, but if Michigan has the opportunity to embarrass their rival in the second half, he will absolutely do it. So to me, that would be only one side. I could only back Michigan here, like you said.
Yeah, that's it, man. I know there's one game that you probably are heading to the window, and I'll ask you about it because it's fascinating to me. It's a game that I like to see. I bet early this week, and I appear at least somebody's following me because the line seems to be moving in my direction. Navy taking Notre Dame on. An interesting matchup here. I think Navy is maybe the surprise of the service academies so far this year. Was supposed to be another down year, or at least it was a down year last year, but they rebounded nicely. They got a great quarterback, right, in Malcolm Perry. Notre Dame, another one of those years where it's ho-hum. All right, we're out of the national championship. We're out of the playoff discussion, so what do we do now? And that's kind of what it feels like, and it opened up at 9, and I took Navy here, Ralph. Am I crazy? It's up to 7.5 now, so somebody's betting. Somebody's backing Navy here.
I am on an island, Joe. I am going to be the one guy who is on Notre Dame. Now, I will say this. Navy, I'm looking at my power ratings, and I started the season Navy at 60.5. They only returned 8 starters, and you have to remember, service academies always play a lot of seniors, so they never return. Air Force was an anomaly this year. I think they returned 15 or 16. Yep. They usually return 9, 10, 11, 12. So it's much different for a service academy because they're playing for Navy prep, and then you're working them in, and they've been on the team. But I opened them at 60.5, and right now I have them at 76.5. So they are up 15.5 points in my power rating since my opener. That's the most in college football, just ahead of Ohio State.
Wow.
Now, with that being said, normally Notre Dame, if you look back at the history of Navy, when Notre Dame is at home, you want to back Navy. Why? Navy traditionally is getting 21 points. Notre Dame does not want to embarrass an academy, Navy, at home. They win the game. They don't cover.
Right.
When they're playing at Navy, it's never at Annapolis. It's always at an NFL stadium.
Right.
They're playing Baltimore, Philadelphia, D.C., Ireland. So then you get Irish's better focus, and they're laying a reasonable spread. But, I have no problems with Notre Dame just sneaking by Virginia Tech. They were coming off USC. They were coming off Michigan. It was a very bad sandwich spot. Did they handle last week? Absolutely. 469 to 197 yard edge in the 38-7 win against Duke. Now, I look at Notre Dame and I look at Navy, and let's go back just a few weeks. Let's go back to the beginning of the year. If I said to you, how much better is Notre Dame than Navy? Would you say only 3 points? Well, that's basically what we're saying here with a 7-point line.
Right.
You had Notre Dame's home. and you're saying Notre Dame is only 3 points better than Navy. That's not true.
Right.
Ian Book has turned into a solid quarterback with a 21-6 ratio. Jones and Book rushing are getting the job done. The defense, yeah, they got hurt against USC and they got hurt against Michigan, but that Michigan game was a game that just funneled into horrible weather and it just snowballed. USC was the pass attack. Virginia was the pass attack. I think this rush D can shut down Navy. They're not going to shut them down totally, but I think they can slow them down on the scoreboard, where I'm getting Notre Dame at this price range, just laying 3 points more than their home field edges for me. I think there's value. And remember, playing the option in the middle of the season is tough, but you face Navy every year. So in the spring, you're working on the option. In August, you're working on the option. You play the option every year. It doesn't take any extra prep because you know what you have to do.
Right.
There's just too much value for me to not look at Notre Dame and have them on my card at the end of the week.
Love that. One of the things I looked at that stuck out to me was how good, and I didn't realize it, how good Navy is in the red zone. Like, when they get in the red zone, they get points, Ralph. Like, they finish drives. They do really well. I don't know if that's a combination of the option, the field shrinks, the triple option. Maybe it gets harder to defend, but they were really good in the red zone, which, tells me that if they get there, they're going to at least get some points, which is going to make this game, I think, real interesting.
Well, one difference is Malcolm Perry has 5 touchdown passes, so they're not afraid to throw down there. And that all of a sudden, you're not able to crash. You're not able to crash the line of scrimmage like you have in the past. So him just having the option to pass. But I will also say this: they have played Holy Cross, East Carolina, Memphis, Air Force, Tulsa, USF, Tulane, and Connecticut. I am going to guess, just looking at that, there is not a top 80 defense in that list.
Yeah. Yep. Good point.
So you are looking at strength of schedule for who they've played on defense, and there is nobody. The best defense they faced, Air Force or USF, I am not sure, but it's certainly nothing to compare with the athletes of Notre Dame.
Quality point. Ralph Michaels, wagertalk.com. All right, one more here, Ralph. Quickly, because you and I have talked about him for weeks, and we kept betting against him. And maybe this is just maybe we'll get the right answer this week. Baylor's still undefeated, Ralph, and we talked weeks ago about I don't get this team. I don't understand. They're better defensively than offensively. They've had balls bounce their way. They've been very lucky. Hell, it was 9-9 at the end of regulation against TCU. Well, now they're going to a different animal. I think we can all agree on this. Oklahoma, Baylor. Oklahoma squeaks another one out last week. Baylor squeaks another one out. Seems to be their MO. I don't know. I mean, are we really talking about Baylor running the table here? Is the time up for Baylor here, Ralph? Is it over now?
Well, yeah, I've thought it was a few times. So now I'm gonna lean with Baylor. So that means they'll probably get crushed. But here's the trend, and there's not many scenarios, but it's certainly worth mentioning. Since 1992. You're week 10 on, so you're into the season a significant amount.
Right.
Which means you're either 8-0 with 2 byes, 9-0 with a bye, or you're 10-0.
Right.
If you're an undefeated home dog from week 10 on, you're 15-4 against the spread.
Wow.
And it makes sense. You're disrespected. You're a home dog. You're undefeated. Wow. You've gone through the season, and yes, you may have won ugly, but you found ways to win. And when a team goes through a season and finds ways to win, it's one of those magical seasons. And with that being said, you look at Oklahoma. Their defense allowed 26 first downs last week, and they survived against Iowa State.
Yeah.
You look at Kansas State. They allowed 424 yards and 24 first downs to Kansas State. Hell, they allowed, Texas 27 points.
Yep.
So the defense has not played well at all. The offense has been historic. But again, now you're going on a true road game, and your other true road games, you weren't tested. You went to UCLA. That's when they were a train wreck in week 3. You went to Kansas. That's when Kansas was a train wreck with Les Miles trying to teach the system. And then your other road game's Kansas State, which you lost. Right. So they have not proved anything on the road. So I have to back the home dog.
Oh, my God. Can't believe. Good. Now they're going to get crushed. I love it. I don't even want to talk about Baylor anymore. Unbelievable. Ralph Michaels, wagertalk.com. Make sure you guys get there. Plays will be up this weekend for college football, NFL, and guys, don't forget, it is college basketball season underway. Make sure you catch Ralph and I at wagertalk.com on the Wager Talk TV YouTube page, as we will bring you each and every afternoon. We've got you with the Happy Hour Tip-Off Show. We're going to give you a rundown of the upcoming games in college basketball, give you some of our best bets. You don't want to miss it. Monday through Friday, right around 3 o'clock Eastern Time, head over to the YouTube page, Wager Talk TV, and get there. And Ralph, as always, pleasure talking football with you, my man. We screw Baylor, please, but I'm going to back you. I'm going to change it. I'm hedging out of my Navy play. You convinced me I'm going Notre Dame, damn it. At Cal Sports LV. Make sure you guys are tailing him on Twitter. Ralph, always a pleasure, brother. Good luck, man. We'll talk again soon.
Thanks, Joe.